And a very warm welcome. We're in Suvarnabhumi International, which is of course Bangkok in Thailand. ICAO code Victor Tango Bravo Sierra. We're in the unimpeachable Fenix A320 today, Thai International livery. And we're going to be routing to the northeast into a small airport. Well, it's still an international airport. Luang Phabang, which is Victor Lima Lima Bravo. It's in the country of Laos, and it's completely landlocked by a river and surrounded by steep-sided hills. And as usual, you know me, I cherish the more difficult over the mundane. That's a little excerpt from my very favourite book, Fate is the Hunter by Kagan. If you haven't read it, read it, because it just sets the tone, I think, for any other aviation book anywhere. It's a fabulous read involving, set in the 1930s all the way through to the 50s, in the era of the Wright cyclones flying DC-2s, DC-3s, DC-6s, C-47s, and it's the stuff of legends. Anyway, you know me by now. Today is going to be about the more difficult, the slightly right of centre aspects of flying. Okay, so let me just bring up Navigraph charts. Here's the route, Bangkok here, and Luang Phabang here. It's about 400 miles, so not a very long flight. And the departure is all very straightforward. The Nobby 2 Golf from runway 20 left. They are actually operating in the real world on 20 right. So I'm not sure what Beyond ATC is going to make of that, but I don't have a 20 right in the scenery. That's freeware from flightsim.to, so we'll just we'll suck it and see what happens. And the departures, it's very nice. It just takes you out to the south, a slight left turn, then you sort of fly it out over the coast, the city of Bangkok, and then it's got lots of constraints. The first one being Gugot here, which, as you know, with the line, a blue line above it, means at or below. Okay, and that's important, and we'll get to that a little bit later. Lots of constraints. All the others are at or aboves, because the blue line is below. Right, so we're all good with that. The fun bit is this end here, the arrival end. So we've got a star, which is dead straight line. It's airways all the way basically to YAKUA, and then we've got this star, which is a dead straight line, and there's nothing exciting at all about it. It's just a straight line. And then we get to the end of the star, and then there's a bit of a void, there's a gap, nothing between the end of the star and the beginning of the approach. And you think, well, what's missing? So, as pilots, you will know your airports. The simulator is so loud today, I'm not quite sure what's happened to it. I've got to just turn the sound down though, just bear with me while I do that. In fact, I'm just going to mute it actually, and I'll come back to that afterwards. So there's nothing between the end of the star and the beginning of the approach, and sometimes as pilots you need to be briefed on your approach, so you will know that there's a bit missing here, okay? And you'll often have to go ferreting around for the missing components of either departures or arrivals, that's SIDS or stars, or approaches, okay? And in this case you would have to go to the chart section here for Luang Phabang, or you can go to airports and go to charts. So there's a million ways of getting to the same place in Navigraph charts. And if we go to the approaches, you'll see there's runway 05, which we're on today, and there's runway 23. And if you look at 05, there's three things listed. One is the RNAV, the RMP, which we're not doing. Then there's the VOR DME, which we are doing. And then there's a transition for VOR DME runway 05. and that's the missing bit. So you might have to go ferry towing. It happens more often than you might think. Okay, so don't just take what Narrowgraph Charts offers you at the bottom here as the gospel truth. It may well be missing a section. So I'm going to pin this. Pinned it. Now it's appeared at the bottom. And this will give us the information about what happens at the end of the star and what happens at the beginning of the VOR DME approach. And as you can see, coming in from YAKUA at 22 DME from Lima Papa Bravo VOR, you do a left turn to take up a 20 DME arc. 20 DME, that's distance measuring equipment, that's 20 nautical miles from LPB. This arc, all the way from here to here, 20 miles, it's a circle all the way around, or semicircle all the way around this VOR, Lima Papa Bravo. And we're just going to be doing just a small section of it. So that's missing, that was missing from our chart selection. And thank goodness we found it, because it's really quite important. As you can see, there's a lot of very steep, very tall peaks in this area, and Luang Phabang is right in a small bowl surrounded by miniature peaks, and it's all very, very exciting. And it's like flying down a Star Wars cavern ravine to get to the approach. It's lovely. It really is lovely. We're going to be doing, as I said, some stuff that's slightly right of center, a little bit more complex, just to exercise those grey cells. Not expecting anybody just to go out and do it for a Maya flight, but you never know what approaches are going to be, used. So it's good to have this sort of thing under your belt. So we're going to put this into the aircraft, and we're going to fly the DME arc using old school technique, the way I was taught to do it in my little Piper, or was it a Cessna in those days. Okay, so I'll have the VOR dialed in, I'll have the DME readout shown, and I will be doing a constant bearing turn. So in other words, I'll be turning left, taking up a course roughly 90 degrees to the entry, and every mile or so, the needle pointing to this VOR is going to be moving on our display. So think of it like this: literally put your arm out 90 degrees to your body, so it's sort of pointing exactly to your right, and walk in a straight line for 5 yards, okay, and then move your arm to point where it was pointing previously. Okay, that is to say, before you start walking, you're pointing at the beacon. When you finish walking, your arm won't be pointing at the beacon. You have to move it slightly to the behind you to be pointing at the beacon. Okay, and you've just transcribed an arc. Okay, so every time that needle moves by 10 degrees, we're going to shift our heading by 10 degrees. And then we'll carry on a little bit more. When that needle moves again by 10 degrees, we're going to shift our heading by 10 degrees. Okay, and so on and so forth. So that's what we're going to be doing for the approach. But en route, okay, while we're in the cruise, I'll be showing you a different way to do a DME arc, okay, which I will then delete. So you've got two methods of doing a DME arc, but we're going to be doing the harder of the two for our approach. Right then, so let's get into the aeroplane, and we've done a bit of a briefing, but we'll do a bit more of a briefing en route. And as I said, we've got the departure. Oops, hang on, let me just get rid of that. We've got the departure, and we've got this Gugot at or below 10,000 feet, and the transition altitude here is 11,000 feet. So that's definitely an altitude, 10,000 feet. Okay, and that's important, and I'll get to that in a bit. So let's switch off the developer camera. We're in the on the flight deck, and let's get set up. This is not going to be, all singing, all dancing. We're just going to crack on with it. So let's tap to import the route. Yeah, I know, I'm late. We'll do mass and balance. We'll load the aircraft, and we're not going to bother with GSX today. But what I will do is a let's just do an instant load. There we go, because it's just easier. So aircraft is loaded. We've got the fuel. We've got the passengers. Okay. This is not the time to send it to the MCDU. Okay, we need to do that in a bit. Okay, so don't be tempted to shortcut, because if you do it now, you'll only get a bit of the information through. So we'll leave that for a moment. We'll stay on this page as a reminder to send it to the MAC2. Let's go to the MAC2. In fact, let's get our pressure set 1004, and that means that we are pretty much at sea level. Okay, we're about 10 feet above sea level. Let's go to the MAC2. So we go to the ATSU, AOC, flight in it, and bring in the flight. Oops, I've got to just reset my throttles. There we go. Okay, so we brought the flight in, and we can go to the init page, and we can request the flight. While that's happening there, I'm going to go to the ATSU page on the first officers. I'm going to go to receive messages, and I'm just going to look at the load sheets, because they are here, and I just don't like having messages that are unread. I'm going to leave that on that page, because there'll probably one more. Actually, there might not be. There might be one en route. Okay, so we don't need to do the IRS in it, because we're in the turnaround state. So we're good like this. I'm just going to delete the messages at the bottom of the scratch pad. That's called the scratch pad, the little bit where you enter information and where it gives you messages. We're going to put in our flight number. Of course, I can't remember what the Thai Airways ICAO code is. THA, Tango Hotel Alpha. So we do THA 995. It goes there. Today we're going to get the cost index from here, because I know that I'm a bit lazy. Just use 35 because I'm always in a hurry, but let's use the right one. Cruise profile, cost index 5. 5? Where did I get that from? 8. So cost index is 8. And we're going to cruise at 37,000, flight level 370. Okay. And what we're going to do now is going to go and put the departure details in. And so we want runway 20 left, and it's a Nobby 2 Golf, I think it was. Nobby 2 Golf. Insert. And you'll see Gugot is here, and that's got a constraint of minus 10,000. That means at or below 10,000. Okay, not going to change that, but just as I said, that's going to play a part in what I'm aiming to do today, which is to just expand your knowledge on the Airbus. And you know, we'll see how we go. I'm only human, so I don't always get things right, but we'll do our best. So Victor Lima Lima Bravo, arrival, and we want the VOR runway 05, and I can't remember what it was. It was the YAK1 Bravo. There we go, YAK1 Bravo. And approach fires, I don't know if there is one for us to put in here. Let's have a look. Flights. No, see, there isn't one. It's just YAKUA is the start of the star, and then it picks up at the VOR DME, the beginning of the VOR DME approach. So there's no via for us to put in. Okay, so I'm just going to do return there and insert, and then if you remember here, there's a gap, so I'm expecting a discontinuity here. There it is. Okay, and I'm just going to leave it there for the moment. Now, when flight crew enter their routes, as I've just done at the beginning of their flight, as received from their dispatch office, they will often have their arrival details or not, because if you're on a long haul flight, you know, weather changes and the operational runway at the time you take off may well be very different to the one that's in operation when you get to the other end of your long haul flight, or even a short haul or even a medium haul flight. Okay, so it's not unusual for the flight crew to not even enter the arrival details in the MCDU, okay, the star or the approach. So I'm happy with that, and not all discontinuities are bad, okay. Some of them are necessary, because some approaches you get to the end of the approach and then ATC vector you. They say turn left, turn right, climb, not climb, turn left, turn right, or descend, okay, and they vector you to the approach. Okay, so we've got the route in, and now we can do the second page of the init. So we're going to fill this bit in here. Had you pressed send to MCDU, you'd only have entered the 0 fuel weight and the 0 fuel weight C of G. It wouldn't put the fuel in. So let's do that now. Success, check, and we've got all the data fields are now complete. Okay, so it's important to do things in the right sequence. Okay, so let's put our performance data in. So we go to takeoff, sync our load sheet. The weather is correct already, and we'll do calculate. So we've got flap 1, flex of 70, 149, 149, 150. So we'll send that to the MCDU. And then remember, we check that in two places. One on the PFD, and you can see 149. That's just the V1 speed, but the V2, the V rotate and the V2 are just above it. And we scroll down and we'll see that the data, V speeds, flaps and flex are entered correctly on the MCDU. So the MCDU is now complete. We're good. So we can go to flight plan page. There are no more messages, so we can go to the progress page. I need to check in with Beyond ATC and get my clearance. So first let's listen to the ATIS. And if you remember, the first constraint from the departure, Nobby 2 Golf, was 10,000 feet at or below. Okay, so our initial's not going to be any higher than that, I don't think. It might be lower. We'll see what they do. So let's get. So I can hear that they're operating on 20 left, but I don't know what weather. Beyond ATC, it's not very flexible at times. So request clearance.
Thai 995, ready for IFR clearance to Luang Phabang Airport.
We're fueled, so we can put our passenger signs on.
Thai 995,
our fuel pumps.
Savanabhumi delivery. Expect runway 20 left. NOBER 2 Golf departure. Squawk 0265.
0265.
NOBER 2 Golf departure.
0265.
Squawk 0265.
So we switch
Thai
to transponder
995.
auto, and we set it to TA, traffic avoidance.
Correct.
No, traffic advisory.
121.95 when ready for pushback or engine start.
Put my armrest up.
Ground 121.95 when ready. Thai 995.
And then it's going to lock the door because that's what you're supposed to do. So I can see my reversers are for some reason. Oh yeah, they are. There we go. So yeah, I'd put my Airbus controls on my honeycomb on, and I just forgot that the reverser levers were on. So anyway, that's why you do the cockpit preparation check. Throttles at idle. Of course, I put my hand up. I didn't do that, did I? No, but I did. I caught it, so that's good. So we've got on the speed, managed mode, -- dot, Heading managed, that means it's an LNAV, it's following this. So that's dash dash dot. And then we got altitude 10,000 set with a dot, which means it's managed. The aircraft is in VNAV, okay? And that's important because of the waypoint that I explained earlier, GUGOT, okay? But we'll get to that in a sec. So let's ask for a push and start.
Thai 995, gate 32, request
We need
pushback
to
and
close
engine
our
start.
doors.
Bay 995, Suvarnabhumi ground. Pushback and engine start approved. Face west.
Pushback approved. Face west. Thai 995.
Right, so I had to just
All aircraft be advised in formation uniform now.
that's
current.
very odd to push back,
Q&H
face
on
west. Why are we
004.
facing west? Because we're facing north at the moment, facing west is pointing to that. So I don't think that's quite right. I think we're going to point the other way. Yes, we're going to point east instead. What are they thinking? Goodness me. Right, so we're going to put push back nose right. I'm not quite sure why they're saying nose left. That doesn't make sense to me. So we've got parking brake set, and we've got a door open. So we've got some ground checks to do. So let's go to the Fenix menu. We'll go to ground services, close our door. That's right, switch off the chocks and cones, close our door. Okay, so now we should have that panel indicating all the doors and hatches are shut. On the nav display, okay, it's always worth switching on constraints, because that just brings up the constraints that you saw in the MCDU and on the chart, puts them in magenta on the nav display. Okay, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit. No, I'm not, because we can't then see the important part. Right, so let's get some pushback. Yeah, so there you go. So we've got pushback clearance. We can put on our beacon light. Fuel pumps are all on. Passenger signs are on. So we're all good.
Hello, Captain. We are ready for pushback.
So we can tell just by looking at the engine instruments that this has got IAE engines. It's got engine pressure ratio instead of N1 shown at the top, and that's a measure of thrust. It's a differential between the air pressure at the front of the engine, literally at the front. If you look at the engine nacelles, you'll see a little sensor somewhere there. There it is, just a tiny little thing there, and that measures the air pressure at the front, and then it measures the air pressure at the back, and that's the differential is the engine pressure ratio, measure of thrust.
Locking gear.
So just to recap, VNAV, okay, is a system a lot of modern airliners have, and in fact BizJets, and right, so we want to go nose right.
Release parking brakes,
Those
please.
parking brakes.
Commencing push. All engines clear. Start at will.
Start it well. So we do engine start selector, then we get all the engine instruments up, and we do start number 2, and we're just going to assume it's all running happily today. So VNAV, okay, it's a modern system in airliners. Most airliners have got, and in fact most simulated high fidelity airliners have also got, and that is a series of, you know, it's all computer managed. The computers tell the aircraft what speed to fly, what the, you know, what the altitude constraints are, what the speed constraints are. It's all managed by the computers. Okay, so all the data that you see here, the speed and the altitude, it's all managed and pre-arranged. And if you look at the performance page, you'll see that we start to take off, we go to the next phase, it goes to climb, and these are all the settings that VNAV will follow. Okay, so when you're on VNAV, it's all preordained, it's all preset, the speeds at which it will fly. But you can either edit that, you can put in different values. That right, number 2 is available. I'm just going to get number 1 running. Reset my clock. Okay, but you can override the VNAV, okay, and you can either do that by editing the values in the MCDU or FMC if it's a Boeing, or CDU, and or adjusting the speeds manually here. Okay, so just bear that in mind for that waypoint Gogot that we were passing. Parking brakes.
Waiting your confirmation for a good engine start.
So we're going to tell them we got a good engine start, otherwise it'll take all day. So
Cockpit
confirm
to
good
ground.
engine start.
We have a good engine start. You can disconnect.
I'm just going to stop the clock. I'm just waiting for a veil available. There it is. So we're good there. Switch the start master off, very important. Put our transponder to Tara. Traffic advisory and resolution something. Resolution advisory. Traffic avoidance, resolution advisory. Something like that. Flaps 1.
Flaps 1.
Spoilers armed.
Tow truck disconnected. Bypass
Predictive
bin
wind
removed.
shear goes on, always.
Left
And
is
weather
clear.
radar,
Right
there
is
is,
clear.
there is weather today. It's cloudy and there might be some embedded thunderstorms. There were last time I flew here. Weather radar is on. Now, I shouldn't have done that really with the ground crew there. And I'm going to put the PA on so we can hear the dulcet tones of our cabin crew. Weather radar you don't really put on when the ground crew are in front of the aircraft because you're cooking them. So, yeah, that's my bad. I've got cooked ground crew now. So I'm sure I'll be hauled for an HR meeting shortly. And then we get to the top overhead panel. We get rid of the APU bleed, put it on our probe and window heat, switch off the APU master. Now the probe and window heat here, you don't always need that, but you do, you know, for airliners, you're flying through cloud, it's cold up there. But window heat, for instance, in the Boeing, you don't always need it. I don't know really. They make better on than off, but probe heat definitely goes on. So let's have a look. Where is our man? Has he gone away? I think he has. He's over there, I think. Let's have a look. Yep, while I've been babbling, he's actually walked completely away. Right, let's tell them that we want taxi to the runway.
Thai 995, request taxi to the active.
Day 995, runway 20 left taxi via Tango Uni 7, Tango Uni 5, Delta 5, Echo Uni.
Right, so we've got a lot of instructions there.
Runway 20 left taxi via Tango 17, Tango 15, Delta 5, Echo 1, Thai 995.
Okay, and the thing about that is that, yes, I need to look at my ground chart to actually find out what all those taxiways are, but with Beyond ATC, just press this little button here and, hey, you've got taxi route mapped out for you. Isn't that great? Okay, so it's straight on, right at the end, all the way down to the threshold and then line up. So, yeah, perfect. So there we go. So, we've got auto brake to go. That can go on to max. And we do a takeoff config. And that's normal. Okay, I know the park brake is on, but that will come off a sec. And we've got taxi clearance, so the taxi light can come on. Turn off lights can come on just to increase our visibility. Whether it's correct or not, I don't know. Park brake is off. And as always with the IAE engines, you start to roll as soon as the parking brakes come off. Okay, but we can give it a little bit of welly. So on the right we're clear, on the left we're clear. Okay, and we'll follow the yellow brick road there. So people do ask, how do you keep that nose wheel actually on the taxi line? Because when you're sitting up here, there's a sort of parallax error. So what you do is you find for your height, your size as a person, you need to have your chair configured in the cockpit so that you are positioned correctly. Now that's important. That's actually a manufacturer's, that's a critical setup. I'm going to turn right here at the end, and I'll show you now how you do that. I'm just going to turn right. Okay, and we're going to taxi down to the end here. Okay, so if you in most cockpits you will see three balls like this, three little spheres, and they're positioned in such a way that when you're correctly seated in your seat, the red one will mask the one behind. Okay, just to show you that there is one there. There you go, three balls there. Okay, so the red one is masking the one behind it. That means my viewpoint is as per the manufacturer. I'm in the right place is what I'm trying to say. Okay. So when you're in the right place, you then note a point in the cockpit, and I use this little screw head here, so that yellow line sort of kind of goes through that screw head, and I know that I'm pretty much on the yellow line.
Bay 995, contact Suvarnabhumi White Tower on 9.0.
Okay, and I think it's a left
Over to
turn.
Tower 119.0,
Yeah, left turn coming in.
995.
Right, we could take that one. We take that. Let's take the next one. Of course, in aviation, there's that famous expression that there's nothing more useless than runway behind you and altitude above you. So, yeah, let's use the full length of the runway, even though it is much, much longer than we actually need. You never know what's going to happen, so you try and use as much runway as possible. There are exceptions. You might be in a bizjet. You certainly won't need all of the runway, or a little Cessna. But yeah, we're in an airliner, so different rules. So we're at the hold. I'm holding it on the brakes. Let's get departure clearance.
Thai 995, ready to go. Runway 20 left. Runway 20 left, cleared for takeoff.
There's
Thai
something to be said
995.
here. Beyond ATC is pretty good, bit inflexible, bit ropey at times, and I don't like it when it does colloquialisms such as "ready for airways," on our way to Mallorca. That doesn't happen in the real world. It might in America, but heck, I don't think it does in the rest of the world. But anyway, we just had a clearance for takeoff, and it was absolutely gobbledygook. Now this is not premium voices. It does come with some premium voices. I haven't used them, okay, because I don't want to get used to using premium voices because they cost a lot of money. And when you've run out of certain characters, it's enough. You can top it up. It's enough for another 20 flights or something. You've then got to pay another arm and a leg to get another 20 flights worth of premium voices. So it uses standard voices, okay. And if you heard the tower give me takeoff clearance, actually none of it was intelligible. It was gobbledygook, okay. So that's one of the penalties of not using premium voices in something like Beyond ATC. Right, so brakes are off, put my landing lights on, put my nose light to takeoff. Everything else is good up there. Strobe is already on auto, so that will come on when it knows I'm on the runway. Just one thing left to do, and that's the clock here. Because why do we put the clock on? Well, because the most important commodity for a pilot, what you're actually getting paid for, is not just the safe handling of the aircraft. Yes, that goes without saying, but it is the thing that is of most value, apart from your paycheck,
Approaching
is
19
the hours
right.
that you log, because that is experience, okay? And the more experience you have in your logbook, the higher the price you'll command as a first officer or captain. You'll rise up the ranks from a junior first officer to a senior first officer, maybe even at some point make the captain's course. So that's
on runway
the thing
19
that
right.
you earn. It's not just money, it is the hours in your logbook. Okay, so I'm lined up. I'm not lined up particularly well, as you can see. The center line is just way off to our right. Some pilots do that intentionally, so they don't run over the cat's eyes, that bum 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 as you're running down the runway. Okay, so we're lined up. Put my clock on, so that's why I need to have the right number of hours and minutes indicating on the clock, so we put that into my logbook. Right, so we've got takeoff clearance, as always with an Airbus. A little bit of forward pressure on the stick until you get to 100 knots. So brakes off, just winding the engines up. Engines are stable.
Stabilized.
Flex.
Flex set. Airspeed alive.
And if you're wondering where that voice comes from, it's a little script written for FSUIPC, but unfortunately the free version of FSUIPC is not enough.
100 knots.
100 knots, back pressure comes off. You can hear that dun, 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 as I'm going over the cat's eyes. So we're looking for 149, 149, 152 I think it was.
V1.
V1,
Rotate.
Rotate, there we go. Bring back. Okay. And we're just
Positive
looking at the
climb.
flight directors. Positive climb, gear can come up. Keeping the
Gear
crosshairs in the
up.
middle. First thing I see is the nav light comes on. That's the vertical green line, okay? That means that the aircraft is then following the FMC, because when you take off you don't have that vertical line. That comes on only when you're, I don't know, 50 feet or something. Right, so if you see that flight directors just went down, that's acceleration altitude. So I can bring my throttles to climb.
Climb set.
Climb power is set. Just keeping those in the middle. And I'm going to put the autopilot on.
1,500 feet.
Autopilot is on. We're at flat speed, so I can clean up, so flaps can come up. Flaps are coming up.
Climb to flight level 180, tie 995.
Right, so that's important. Climb to flight level 180. Okay, so that is not the first altitude constraint. Okay, because that is at 10,000 or below. Anyway, flight level 180. I've got set and checked. Sorry, set and checked. No, I haven't. Set and checked. No, I haven't. What's going on? Okay, let me explain. VNAV, you remember, the computers in the aircraft look at the constraints, they look at the speeds, they look at the, they look at the departures, and I'm in VNAV, managed in an Airbus, managed mode. So even though I've got flight level 180 set, on my PFD it's still showing 10,000. Okay? And that's really important, because we've got clearance now to climb to 180, except the airplane's going to stop at 10,000 feet, because we're in managed mode. Okay? And that's important. How do we deal with this situation? AT expecting us to climb, the airplane's going to stop us climbing. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? So what we do is we go into what's called open climb. So we're going to pull the altitude knob. Okay, so we put the cursor at the bottom, and we pull it. There we go, pulled. And you see the little dot has gone, and we're now not in managed mode. And what's happened now is that flight level 180 is now shown on our PFD, and we're now in open climb. Okay, so the aircraft is still managing speed and lateral navigation, but it's not doing altitudes. We've taken control. We've pulled the knob from the aircraft to ourselves. It's symbolic. We've taken control of the altitude. So we're in open climb. The aircraft now will not pay attention to that constraint. Why? Because we told it to. Why? Because ATC gave us clearance to climb above that. Okay, now we're in a heavy old airplane. We might not get to 180 before this waypoint, so the whole thing might be moot, but we're certainly going to get above 10,000. And in fact, if you look now, we're at 9,500. The aircraft would now be levelling out shortly. Let me just zoom in. It will be levelling out, and we would stay at 10,000 until we get past Gugot. So had we been in managed mode, the aircraft would have levelled off at 10,000. It would have maintained 10,000 after passing Gugot, where we've got 5 miles to run. Okay, it would then have automatically started to climb up to the assigned altitude that we dialed in 180. Okay, it would have done that automatically. We wouldn't have needed to press anything because it's in VNAV, automatic. Okay, automatics kicking in. As I said, the computer's aware of all the information here, and it would have managed that for us. Right, so we're past 1,000, so we can now go to standard pressure. We've got to still do our after takeoff checklist, so we can do that now. We can switch off the spoilers, flaps are up, gear is up, and we can do all our lights. So nose light, our turn off lights, and again with the Fenix, you can operate the left and the right landing lights individually, or if you put your cursor in the middle, do them both at the same time. And we're not out of the clouds yet, okay, and there might be embedded thunderstorms and CBs in clouds, so we're just going to keep the passenger signs on for a little bit longer. Okay, now we've gone past Gugot. We're climbing 13,000, flight level 130. So if I can go back to VNAV now, because we're past that constraint that would have affected us, so we can click the button in, and the aircraft will just carry on its merry way. Okay, let's just zoom out on the map. There we go. So the next constraint is Abat, flight level 140. Let's just look at that here. 140 Cabot at or above 140.
Thai 995, contact Bangkok Center 120.5, bye-bye.
Center on 120.5, Thai 995. Have a good afternoon.
Okay, so are we out of the... We're not out of the clouds yet.
Bangkok Center,
I'm not going to let them out of their
995,
seats.
through flight level 155 for flight level 180.
So we're climbing to 180 now. So we're going to have more clearance.
Thai 995, Bangkok Center, identified. Climb to flight level 370.
Going to 370. So dial in 370.
370, Thai 995.
So 370 we have. So it's set, and we always checked, because you saw what happened before. It set it, and it wasn't there. But that's because the VNAV was interfering. Well, it wasn't interfering. It was doing its job, actually. So I shouldn't say interfering, but it was doing its job. But you know, this is these are valuable techniques. So not only can you do an open climb by pulling the knob, but you can do an open descent as well. Okay, so if we have a lower altitude dialed in, okay, and if say we're at the top of descent, we could push the knob, and that would take us into a managed descent, or we could pull the knob, and that would take us into an open descent. Okay, speed would still be managed, lateral navigation would still be managed. Okay, so there we go. Open climb, open descent by pulling the knob. Right then, so are we through the clouds? Yes, we are.
November Kilo,
I'm going to release the passengers. Okay, so let's have a look now at the next part of what I wanted to deal with. So let's just bring the chart back in, and not this one. What I meant was this one here. Okay, and we've looked at the transitional chart here, and at the moment we would have to fly this manually, and that's what we're going to do. But we're going to instead enter what's called a place bearing distance waypoint. So FMC's fantastic. You can put your own waypoints, make your route, and you know, pretty much fly anywhere you want, as long as you've got an intersection or a waypoint or a beacon of some description, maybe even Luang Phabang beacon, you know. So you can make your routes up. But what if you want to create your own waypoints where there isn't an intersection or a waypoint or something of that nature? Here we've got lots of intersections, lots of here we go, another one, and you know, there's a lot of beacons and so on. So you can add anything you want into your route. But what if you want to go here? Well, how would you do that? Okay, let's look at this. Now you could use something called Little Nav Map, or we could just use the map, and that's what we're going to do. Let's bring up that chart, because I want the aeroplane to fly this. Say for instance, I want the aeroplane to fly this DME arc on its own. Okay, we're coming in from YAKUA on the 197 radial. So if you draw a straight line out from Luang Phabang VOR, it's on the 197 radial. Okay, so at 22 miles we wanted to start a left turn to then execute a 20 DME arc. So what if we put a couple of waypoints, intermediate waypoints, one here and one here, okay, and let the aeroplane fly actual waypoints? Well, let's try that. So let's put one in at 205 and 215 at 20 miles. Okay, so in other words, 205 will be roughly about here, and 215 will be roughly about here. Okay, in fact, let's do one at 215 and 226. Let's do three of them. Okay, so the syntax for doing a place bearing distance waypoint in an Airbus is the place, and the place in this case is LPB, Lima Papa Bravo. The distance is 20, so it's LPB slash 20. No, sorry, let me do that again. LPB slash then the radial. Okay, so that would be 205, and then the slash for distance 20. So it's LPB slash 205 slash 20. And that will put a waypoint here. We do another one, LPB slash 215 slash 20. That will put one about here. And we're going to do one more, LPB slash 226 slash 20, and that will put one right exactly here. Let's do that. Okay, so let's go to plan mode first, and we're just going to scroll down the plan till we get to the approach end. There we go. So there's a massive gap here, and what we're going to do, we're going to add some waypoints in, and you'll see it won't be a perfect circle, okay, but you'll see something resembling an arc here, a DME arc. So LPB slash 205 slash 20. That goes into here. Insert. Let's do another one. See, it's our user waypoint, and it's given it the name place bearing distance 1. Let's give it another one. LPB slash 215 005/20. Going to put that in underneath that one.
Bangkok L282, Bangkok Center, expect radar vectors.
I'm not quite sure what happened there. It seemed to have disappeared. Yep, let's do that again. LPB. Yeah, you couldn't write this, could you? 2-1. Maybe I made a mistake. 2 0.
Have a good afternoon.
Enter it there. Insert. Look, I don't know what happened there. So there you go. 2 of them. 1 and 2. PBD, place bearing distance. And your place could be anything. We've used LPB. It could be anything. It could be an intersection. It could be an NDB. It could be a waypoint. Okay, it could be anything. So let's do another one. Let's do PBD.
Bangkok Center, knock air 307, descending via Nakon Tree Alpha, flight level 124.
We're going to do 226. No, I can't remember. 226 or yeah, 226. 226/20. Pop it in there. Not in database, so I must have made a mistake. Yeah, I did PB. Oops. Let's do it again. LPB. Dear oh dear. 226/20. I am only human. LP. There we go. Put it into that one. And erase. And let's just scroll down that list. We've got a disco. Still, we can get rid of the disco, but I'm not going to because we'll need it in a bit. Okay, so just pretend I've got rid of the disco. And let's look at here. Look at that. Okay, that is an arc. If we completed that, it would be a complete circle. It's just it's a large diameter, really, 20 miles. But that then, if I linked those two by getting rid of the disco, it would fly a perfect DME arc. Okay, well, pretty perfect. Okay, so that's quite handy to know. Place bearing distance. All right. I'm going to get rid of those because I'm going to do it old school style. So let's get rid of those. I'm going to delete PBD1. I'm going to delete PBD2 and I'm going to get rid of 3. Okay, and we're just going to scroll up the list. We've still got a single discontinuity. Insert. So we're back the way we were. And there should be a break.
Bangkok Center,
Let's do that again.
Alpha, runway 36.
There we go. And there is a break still between the two of them. We're going to be doing that old school style. Anyway, we're still climbing out to flight level 370 and I take it out of plan mode actually. There we go. And let's have a quick look outside. Yeah, so we're all good. So we're going to rejoin shortly when we get to our top of descent, which just incidentally, always remember that in the oh, got some weather ahead. Look. Ooh, some weather somewhere there. Okay. Remember that in the MCDU, in the maintenance menu, we've got sim rate. So if you wanted to make the cruise component of the flight go a bit quicker, you could just go to 2 times speed or 4 times speed. Okay. So I'm going to stop it there and we'll do a little bit more as we get closer to our descent. Alright. See you. Well, welcome back to the stream. We've had a bit of excitement in the short few minutes that I've been offline. We haven't actually gone anywhere. We've just managed to get to 370, but therein lies the story. Let me tell you what happened. So, because I paused the sim for a moment or two to go about my own business, when I came back, the aeroplane just started to go a bit funny with all different winds. I guess it was just a matter of simulation, winds, unpausing, the airplane came unbalanced. I had twin pack issues. Now, if you don't know what a pack is, packs are up here, one for engine number 1 and number 2 for engine number 2, and the packs drive the air conditioning and the pressurization systems. Okay, so they are the bleeds from the engine, and they are the air conditioning, sort of driven by the bleeds, and they are the air conditioning system, the air management system, if you like. And both of these started to fail because they were overheating. And what happened was that I had message, lots of caution lights come on, and message on the ECAS display, and it said basically switch them off, wait until the temperatures come out of the critical zone, and then switch them back on. I did that, and it worked. So, yeah, I didn't expect that, but this is something, very special about the Fenix, that it has this insane level of depth. And it came up with a message here, and it told me what to do here. It says packs 1 and 2 off, temperatures stable, packs 1 and 2 on. And I did. And on this synaptic display down here, under bleed, it was all in amber, sorry, in orange. So obviously a fault here, and these symbols here were in amber, in orange as well, and they were sitting on low. Now, part of the issue was that, of course, the aircraft was then not being pressurized, so the pressure, the cabin altitude was increasing all the time. And of course, above 14,000 feet, then humans don't really, it's a bit dodgy. I got up to about 10,500 feet before the PATs came back online. So really, I should have done a deep dive down to a safety altitude. I don't know what they do in this area here. This is all high level ATPL, airline transport pilot category stuff, because for any given route you need to know where your escape avenues are, because you might be over the Himalayas, you might not be able to get down to a safe altitude. So airways are chosen, so there's always somewhere for you to aim to should you have a pack issue or an engine failure, because the aircraft can't fly at this altitude in a single engine. So anyway, a little bit of excitement. We got there in the end, so yeah, that was interesting. And there we go. So we're back now to where we should be. So we got cabin altitude of 8,000 feet. We're up at 11,500 feet. Goodness me. Anyway, long story short, that was a moment. And I thought I had to switch off and restart, but actually I just followed the instructions and it all worked. I switched off the pack 1 and pack 2, left it, kept monitoring my the cabin pressurization. So happily we're all living to tell the tale. But that's just because I unpaused it. When I unpaused it, obviously in that moment between pausing it 5 minutes and I was away, the airplane just couldn't regain whatever the winds or the weather or the environment had done to it. So you can normally pause and restart quite happily, but this time it seemed to have a problem. But anyway, the Fenix is insane. It's just wow. Okay, so that's just a radio call for me. So what we're going to do now, we're just going to go into the this is called the EFIS system here. This manages the nav display and what you see on the nav display, and we go to plan to show us a top-down view of our route, and when we're in plan we can just zoom along. There's a discontinuity that we had, and I've deleted those DME arc waypoints that I created, and that green line there, if we zoom in, it's just part of the approach there. Okay, so what we're going to do now, we're just going to, and that's the runway, see the runway there, 2 little parallel lines. What we're going to do now, we're going to enter a fix, okay, because this is a non-precision approach, and ILS is a precision approach. It's very accurate, and it's so accurate that Nautoland will work from an ILS, depending if the aircraft is capable of that or not. RNAV, VOR DMEs, NDBs, and other such approaches are non-precision approaches. So you would need to add a little bit to the minimums, the minimum descent altitude, which is the altitude you can descend at, to and not below, and if you're visual then you can carry on. But what I want to do here is I want to add what's called a fix to the runway, okay, because I want to extend that centre line. This is very useful if the visual conditions are a bit marginal. You can see on your nav display a little dotted line that represents the extended runway centre line, okay. Helps you plan for your circuits and your approaches. So left line select key, LSK left line select key, RSK right line select keys. So I'll click on the left one, and then we get fix info. Go to fix info, and here I want to tell it, well, it wants to know what fix I'm interested in, and what I'm interested in is the airport. So it's VLLB, Victor Lima Lima Bravo. And then it says, okay, well, what do you want? So I want to enter a radial, okay, and a radial basically is a straight line coming from that fix. So I could enter the runway that we're landing on, which is 05, but that will show here in between these parallel lines, which has now got a star on it because I'm dealing with it on this. In between these parallel lines, it would enter a line that goes outbound on the heading of 050, but what I want is the line that comes along the path that I'm approaching 05. So I want 230. So I want a radial 230, and in it goes. And what you'll see now is an extended centre line. Okay, if I zoom in, okay, and I just go down the flight plan list a little bit more. See, that's a bit too far. There's the runway. There we go. There's the runway, and you can see now there's a blue dotted line that's coming out from runway. Well, it's actually the 05 end going south to the southwest, 230 degrees. If I'd entered 050, it would be going to the northeast, but I want that extended centre line there. And it will just help me visualise, because a non-precision approach doesn't necessarily fly to the runway. It takes a safe path towards the runway. You might need to weeble around a little bit. Okay, so we've done a fix. Okay, and that's quite handy. We need to put our destination data in. That's what that message is, enter destination data. Let's go back to plan, and I'm not sure where, I think we've just gone past the top of descent. No, we haven't. Let me have a quick look. Yeah, top of descent is after YAKUA. Okay. So, destination data. So we go to perf, we go to next phase, go to next phase, and here they are. So let's get the weather. Go to the EFB, Fenix menu, my flights, weather, arrival, and just refresh. We want QNH and the temperature, 100531. 005. Temperature is 31. We want the wind. 040 at 2 knots.
Expect Nikon 3 Alpha, runway 21 right, Thai Asia 344.
Okay, and now we want the approach itself. So let's get the Navigraph charts up. Let's look at the approach. Okay, and we need to put in the minimums, and that is on the QNH 2,440 feet. And that's on the Barrow. That's an altitude above sea level. This, in brackets, is above the ground, if you like, above the airport. There's a difference roughly of 1,000 feet, so I'm expecting therefore the airport to be level 1,000 feet above sea level. And what do we got? There you go, 975, about 1,000 feet. Okay, so we put in on the barrow 2440, or we could put 1475 on the radar altimeter, but we want this really, that's more use to us. 2440. 2440 goes into barrow. Okay, let's go back to the flight plan page, and what we need to do now is to brief on the approach. So the approach, after we do this DME arc, and we will do that the old-fashioned way, we get to do the final bit, which is from here, 18.8 miles, and that starts
Center on 120.5, Thai Asia
18.8 miles.
Have a good
These two lines here basically are to do with the approach. If you start the approach at LPB, overhead LPB, okay, that's a VOR. We're not, we're coming in from a DME arc, which is around somewhere like this, okay, and then we're going to end up at this point here at 6,600 feet. So we need to make sure that's set. Then we've got a 2.98 degree descent down to 3,650 feet, and that's where our final approach fix is. And at this point we need to be fully configured for landing, gear out, flaps down, spoilers armed, and so on. And then it's the 3.5 degree descent down to the MDA. That's the minimum descent altitude. An ILS precision approach, you have a decision altitude, a decision height, okay, and it tells you carry on if you're visual, but the MDA is the minimum descent height, so you get to that and you can fly straight and level until you're visual with it. But of course by the time you might be visual to it, it's way too close to you to actually manage to descend. Anyway, you do not descend below the MDA, 2440, okay? So it's a 2.98 degree slope to 8.1 miles, and then 8.1 miles it's a 3.5 degree slope. And we will refer to this again, but for now we want 116.6 and 052. We're nearly at our top of descent, but let's put in our radio navigation page, okay, 116.6 there, and we just checked that the ident is correct, LPB it is, and the approach radial to that follows this approach is 052. It's a 052 radial into Luang Phabang. Imagine a VOR has got 360, like you know, if you're looking at the sun, you've got these bright radials coming off, you know, the sun. It's got 360 degrees of radials. We're flying towards Luang Phabang on the radial 052. Okay, so 052 is what we dial into this course. That's in. And we also want to make sure that we are at that waypoint 8 DME. This one here, I think it is at 6,600. That should be at. It says plus, so I'm going to change that 6,600 at.
Center on 128.3, Thai 995.
Okay. So now we've got a top of descent, and we need to get descending.
Level 370.
So I'm going to enter in
Thai 995, Vientiane radar contact.
between 9,500 and 10,000. They're going to give us a descent to 9,500. That's what I dial in now. I'm going to ask for descent,
Thai 995, approaching our top
and I'm
of
going to
descent.
dial in
Wave descent.
9,500 here. Use the Y bit of the knob here to change from hundreds to thousands. 9,500 feet, and we can start our descent now. And we can go open descent or managed descent. We'll go managed, but we'll keep an eye that it's maintaining the path, which is that little green dot.
Thai 995 QNH 1006, expect the VOR DME runway 05 with the D1907B transition.
QNH1006, expect the VOR DME runway 05 with the D197V transition. Thai 995.
D197V transition. That means it's on the radial 197 to Luang Phabang VOR.
Clear direct D197V. Cross D197V at or above 9,500 feet. Clear VOR DME runway 05.
Okay.
Clear direct D197V.
So-
Cross D197V at or above 9,500
Just
feet.
a word of warning. Now,
Runway
VNAV
05, Thai
should be
995.
very accurate. It's not always very accurate. This is a simulator. It's not the real thing. They should be really accurate, but it just means that sometimes the aircraft doesn't quite manage. Maybe the winds are too strong. Maybe the environmental factors. Maybe, you know. So we just need to make sure it is managing the descent as per the little green dot. Okay, and we just need to be on top of it to make sure that the aircraft is descending to the pattern we're expecting, the profile, I should say, that we're expecting it to. Okay, so we just started a gradual descent, 1,000 feet per minute, and when it intercepts this blue zigzag here, it's going to come down at a faster rate of knots. Okay, so that's one thing. When we get to this waypoint here, D197V, it's going to turn left and we're going to follow this DME arc. We need to be slow, so I'm going to be slow at that point, or slowing I should say. And I also need to be descending down to 6,600 feet at this waypoint. So that is 3,000 feet pretty much I've got to lose in quite a small distance. Okay, so I need to be ahead of the game. So when I get to this, I'm going to establish on the arc, but I'm going to carry on descending to 6,600 feet, and that's an altitude, and as is this, because the transition altitude here is
China
11,000.
475, contact Chennai control 125.9.
Okay, so we are coming down. We're on the green dot. Okay, and I'm not sure we can see the terrain yet, but you saw that it was very, very hilly. In fact, yeah, it's hilly. It's getting hilly. It's just incredibly beautiful where we are. So there's the sun, and I was talking about the VOR with the 360 radials coming off it. It's a little bit like that, okay? And you can navigate precisely to a VOR on a particular radial. You can drive into it on the 052 radial, as we're going to be doing shortly, okay? And not only is it a VOR, it's also a DME, so it's probably, so more than likely a VOR has got a co-located distance measuring equipment, DME, that tells you how far you are from it. So why is that important? Because I've dialed into the RadNav page 1166, okay, and that's on VOR 1. I'll go here to my eFIS panel and click this button to the VOR. I get an arrow, and that points directly to Lima Papa Bravo VOR, and it also tells me the distance. So I am 98 miles from Lima Papa Bravo. So there's my distance measuring equipment, my DME. Okay, so when we get closer, I'm going to switch from arc to nav, which is a circle, and I'm going to look at this needle, and every time, if you remember when I said to put your arm out, you know, stand up, put your right arm out, point it at something in your sim room, okay, and then move forward a yard, and then that your arm is no longer pointing at the object it was once pointing at. You've got to move it slightly backwards to then point at something. So you've transcribed an arc, you see. So when that needle moves, I'm going to change the heading appropriately, okay, by 10 degrees. So wait till that's moved 10 degrees, I'm going to move the heading by 10 degrees. Wait till the needle's moved another 10 degrees, move the heading by another 10 degrees. And that way we'll transcribe an arc, okay, and eventually we could actually fly a complete circle around LPB if we wanted to. But you'll see what you'll see what I mean. These are all concepts that are maybe not straightforward to gauge, you know, straight away. So let's look at the landing distances. Let's go to the performance page. It's dry. We know that now. runway 05, we apply the METAR, and we are manual landing. Landing weight is going to be, let's have a look, landing weight is 60, current weight is 61,400, so we're going to go 60, let's go 60, let's go 61. Okay, it's going to be a lot less than that, but max landing weight 64. Okay, so I need to do 61.0. $61 tons, manual landing, flaps full, low, auto brake, idle and reverse, auto throttle on. So it's telling me that we've got landing distance available, LDA 2,900 meters, and landing distance run is 2,178. So auto brake low, we're going to manage that very happily. Let's go medium auto brake, and you'll see then that we've got a landing distance of 1,574. Why is that important? Because we need to look at this, and this is showing that there's a terminal to our right. Now, no way we're going to stop before that. We could try, but we're not going to. We just burn our brakes out. So we're just going to go with auto brake low and just roll out. We'll turn the aircraft around and taxi back.
China Southern 6064, contact Hanoi Control 125.90.
We need to make sure we've got.
Contact Hanoi Control 125.90. China Southern 6064.
So we're not at YAKUA yet, I don't think. So we're going to go auto brake low. Auto brake low. There we go. Auto brake low. And then we're now 25, flight level 250. So we're going to put the passenger signs on. So they're out of the way, sitting comfortably and not in the way of the crew who's going to be tidying everything up. So we've got 72 miles now to run to Lima Papa Bravo. So we're going to be using a whole different technique from an ILS or an RNAV. Okay, so we won't be using the LS button here. We'll be using what they call the bird. So it's not a flight director like that, it'll be just a little circle, okay, and that will point wherever the aircraft is the trajectory of the aircraft, okay, depending on the wind. So of course if the wind's coming from left to right now, you know, we might be aiming there, but by the time we get there with the wind we're going to be around here, you know, so it just takes into consideration the you know, the winds. So we've got the bird switched on. It's a non-precision approach, so the bird comes on and we will be going into heading mode to follow the 052 radial down. It'll all come clear, I think, once we do it. As I said, this is slightly advanced. We'll see how we get on. But if we look at the approach, again, you get some idea of what it's like when you look at this chart, but when you go to the actual VOR DME, you get some idea that, you know, the airport is 1,000 feet, and these are 3,000 feet, 5,000 feet, 3,500 feet, right next door to the airport, 2,500 feet. You know, yeah, you know, you can't ignore these, and there's something here 2,600 feet and 2,700 feet. So flying down the canyon. Brilliant stuff. Brilliant. So let's have a look. Let's get back to the arrival. Sometimes, you know, Navigraph charts will show you where you are on the chart. Sometimes it doesn't, though. It doesn't quite. These are not geo-tagged. I think that's the word for it. So in other words, they're not built to scale. They're not geo-tagged, so the aircraft can't be drawn on it. They're not to scale or something. So anyway, we are now 60 or so to run to LPB. So we are 22 here, another 40 or so this side of the approach. So probably, yeah. And all the airport area is coming in here. And we're still on track. Our performance page for the approach shows that we've got an approach speed of 136 and a landing speed of 131. So 136 is what we're going to fly in at, and we're going to go on manual speed. Of course, we need to check that the approach phase is active, so the aircraft knows that we're going to be performing a landing. Auto throttles will be on. You don't have to have the auto throttles on in an Airbus. They can use them as normal throttles if you wish, but you know, we're going to use those. So we're now 260 pretty much at indicated airspeed. Our ground speed is 341 knots, and we're getting ever so close now to the meat and bones of this. I'm going to wait till we're just, so if we zoom in on this, we'll go from 40 to 20. If I go to 20, we won't see very much of the approach. So I'm just going to wait till till this busy area comes in range of the 20-mile radar range. There we go. So you're getting a feel for the topography. Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if there's going to be some weather there as well. There was last time. Made it very interesting. And I've got active sky, and that's wonderful because when you hit clouds, you actually do get buffeted around, and I quite like that. So we're just getting very close. So we're now 16, flight level 160. Remember, flight levels above 11,000. It says so, not on the star, but on the these charts here, 11,000, and on the VOR DME 11,000. Okay, 1,000. Oh, there we go. We've just appeared on the chart. So it's just this bit here that wasn't to scale them. The rest of it is. Okay, so there we go. And if you remember, we really need to be managing. We need to be ahead of the aircraft. So, good time now to zoom in. Let's do that now. We'll go from 80 to 40. Okay. We're at flight 140, and we need to descend to 6,600, if you remember.
Thai Asia 552, contact Chengdu control 120.9. Bye bye.
And our landing speed. I'm going to get that now on the co-pilot side.
Thai Asia 552, have a good afternoon.
So we've got 136. Okay. Now, the Airbus is completely capable, absolutely capable of flying this entire thing on its own. Okay, it is. But I want control. This is tough terrain out there, and I want to be doing the approach. I want to have control of this. But there's no reason why you couldn't just let the aeroplane take care of all of the above. As long as you manage, the altitude, it will do the rest. But really, would you do that in the real world? Where you've got passengers in the back and you've got the responsibility, and you're carrying the reputation of your airline on your shoulders as well. I mean, this is fabulous scenery. Just beautiful, isn't it? So we are very close now to starting on that arc. Okay, so I'm going to start taking control of it. So we are going at 267, and I'm just going to start slowing it down, but I want it to I don't want to miss the profile here. So I've got the speed brakes out, okay, in an effort to let the aeroplane slow down, and I'm just going to take control, pulling this vertical speed knob, and I'm just increasing our rate of descent. The standard, the barometric pressure is flashing, so we've just gone through 11,000. So press that, and I'll press B, 1005. Okay, so you see I've taken control of asking the airplane to slow down. I've got the speed brakes out, so it's slowing down, but in me doing that, it was then managing my request and not the descent, so I had to go to manual vertical speed to keep that little dot somewhere in the middle. Okay, I just guessed 1,600 feet per minute, because that's pretty much what it was ascending at before. Okay, and now I can go to flap 1. Okay, flap 1.
Flaps 1.
Okay, and I'm going to go to 180 on the speed, and now I'm on the heading, and I'm going to go 90 degrees left of this. I need to try and do a DME arc. So I'm going to keep it coming round to about there, and now I'm going to dial in 6,600, and I'm going to do open descent, pull the button, open descent. Spoilers can come in now. I'm going to go flaps 2.
Flaps 2.
So we are now 19 miles, so we're a little bit tight, a little bit closer than we should be. Okay, but that's all right. And I've got that white needles pointing to the VOR. I'm a little bit closer than I should be. Okay, but I'm not going to panic about that. I just need to bear that in mind. So I'm looking at that white needle, and if you just imagine the VOR, it's out there. We're flying, as we're flying to the, where are we? We're flying to the southwest. That VOR is just, you know, coming behind us a little bit. So that needle is moving a little bit downwards. So I'm going to just adjust the heading now by 10 degrees. There we go. And speed brake is not retracted because I've got trouble with that on my system. There we go. I'm going to arm it, and that needle's moved again. I'm going to come around another 10 degrees. Okay.
Cabin crew must now be seated for landing.
So we're just descending now to 6,600. I'm going to slow the aircraft down now to 160 on the speed. I'm going to come around by another 20 degrees. Sorry, to 10 degrees. I'm going to zoom in on the map. You watch this needle, the white needle. It's going to just start to creep downwards. See it? Because of course we're passing it. So we're just levelling off at 6,600. Our next altitude is going to be 3,600. And you can see I could just press approach mode, but I'm not going to. It's come around another 5 degrees though, because I don't want to get too close, because you know I'm 18 miles instead of 20 miles. So I'm just a mile too close to the runway. Okay, and I'm getting very close now to the actual, it's not the blue line, that's the runway. The green line's the one I want for the approach. So I'm just going to bring the heading round. Okay, and I'm now going to go to VOR mode, and that blue line there, the middle blue line, is going to match the two outer lines, and that's the radial 052. Okay, and now I can come down to 3,000. 3,000, I can't remember, 400 was it? 3,600. Okay, and I'm going to pull this knob. I'm going to go to track FPA. No, that's it. And I'm going to pull this knob. I'm going to come down at 3.6, wasn't it? 3.6 degrees, if you remember. No, it was 2.98. Oh dear, 2.9. There we go. And that blue line just escaped me a little bit, so I need to just come around with my heading knob a little bit more like that, just to go the other side. This blue line has to marry up with this, the rest of the blue line there. So I'm just going to go beyond it. That will start to come to the left, and then I'll just aim towards it. So I'm a little bit high, and if you remember, the approach says I get to 3,600 at DME 8.1. So DME is 14, so I haven't got much to go, so I'm just going to increase my rate of descent a bit. Okay, see that blue line is coming in now, very gradually. So I'm going to go, let's have a look, let's slow down a bit more. I'm going to go gear down, and I'm going to go
Gear down.
flap 3.
Flaps 3.
So 8 miles, I need to be 3,600. So am I coming down at the right speed? And I want now to select the approach speed, which is 136. So I'm going to go 136 on the speed, and I go flap full.
Full flaps.
Right, we didn't do our landing lights, we didn't do our nose lights. Report established beyond ATC.
Established on final approach.
I need to come around to the left a little bit to keep that blue line
995
in.
affirm.
So you can see they're coming down into the profile now.
Have a good afternoon.
Over to tower 118.5, Thai 995. Bye bye. Luang Phabang Tower, Thai 995, VOR DME runway 05.
So I'm just keeping an eye on the profile because
Thai 995, Luang Phabang Tower, wind 320 at 2, runway 05 clear.
so
to
now I
land.
can come down to 2,400.
Runway 05 cleared to land, Thai 995.
And if you remember, when I get to 8, the descent rate is 3.5. So now we can go 3.5. 3.5. We're pretty much on the line. Notice I haven't looked out yet because we're doing an instrument flight. Not looking out the window because I'm flying it on instruments. Okay, but we can look at a sneak peek. Look at that. Look at this. It's just beautiful, isn't it? Look at that. See? Right, you know, the eye of the needle, really. And there's the runway there. So it's a non-precision approach. We're not actually aiming at the runway. Okay, I'm just trying to chase this blue line here a little bit. So it's a little bit uncontrolled. I'm sorry about that. I am doing my best. Okay. But of course, because, you know, we could have just pressed the approach button, the airplane could have done all of the above for us. I'm just chasing that blue part. If that blue line there, the middle bit, was lined up with those, we'd be bang on the 052 radial inbound to LPB. But it's just a degree or so out. So we're not that far off, but, you know, probably that's not close enough for a check ride, I don't think. We're just coming up down to 2,400. I am visual, and I'm going to continue the approach. So autopilot is coming off. Okay, so now I am going to fly it manually and line up on that runway. So I'm going to come right a bit, and if I go to the next page, the nav display, you'll now see the green dotted line, which will help me. See that green dotted line that we added as a fix. Okay, so we're a bit high. Don't want to lose sight of what I'm doing by showing you too many things, but yeah, I think it's okay. I think we've done an okay job. Teamwork. Yeah, I've overshot that a little bit. Still, I'm only human, as the song goes. Okay, nice gentle turns, and you can see the PAPI lights now ahead of us.
Approaching.
We need 2
05.
whites, 2 reds. That tells us we're on exactly the right descent path. We've got 3 whites, 1 red at the moment, so we're a little bit high. But I think we've got 2 of each now. Yeah, 2 of each. So we're exactly on the right path. And it's got a displaced threshold here. Bear that in mind. You don't land on a displaced threshold, whereas you can use them for takeoff. It's just beautiful, isn't it? Look at this. Look at this. Wow. So down we go. Displaced threshold. You can see the green lights either side of the runway. Shows me where my touchdown zone begins. Okay, and PAPI lights only valid to a certain altitude. We need to be crossing the line at about 50 feet. Retard, throttles to idle, bring the nose up a little bit, and let it settle. Right, reversers.
Spoilers up.
Spoilers are up, reversers are green. Now we're decelerating. Okay, auto brakes are still active. And I'm going to switch them off and go manual
Auto
braking.
brake off. 70 knots.
70 knots. Reversers can come off.
900 remaining.
Exit next available taxiway.
Okay, so they said exit, so
Exit next
that's as
available
good as
taxiway,
backtrack.
995.
So I'm going to just hold it on the left brake, give it a little bit of throttle, let the airplane swing around. Okay. Of course, you don't do anything like flaps or spoilers when you're on the active runway.
23.
Too many accidents where pilots have inadvertently retracted the gear or something instead of the flaps. So we just wait until we've got that. We're off the active before we do any work. Now, that's because that's if you're a single pilot. Now we've got somebody sitting here, our co-pilot, so he would be retracting the flaps at this stage and putting the spoilers up. But we're a single pilot, so we wouldn't do that. What we can do though, I guess we can get the APU fired up, so put the APU master on, wait till the doors open. Doors are open now, and we can do the APU bleed and switch to probe heat off, because probe heat, we don't want to burn out the probes because they get very, very hot, and without the airflow flying, you know, over them to keep them cool, they will burn out, and they're very, very expensive. Right, so we're just coming off here. Luang Phabang Airport. Lovely little terminal. We're just going to come to a stop the other side of the hold, just about here. That'll do. Come to a stop. We'll clean up the aeroplane so flaps can come up, spoilers can get closed. No, you see, they're just not working at the moment, my spoilers. Oh, right, and all the non-essentials, so we can switch off our
Ladies
weather
and
radar,
gentlemen, the cabin crew
predicted
will
wind
shortly
shear,
be leaving their seats to perform
Tara
safety-related
can go to
duties.
TA,
However, we ask that
and
You remain seated until the fasten
landing lights
seatbelt
can come
sign
off.
has been switched
Taxi
off.
light can go from takeoff to
Portable
taxi,
electronic devices for
and
messaging,
that's it.
calls,
We're good.
or internet access
And now we can
may
taxi
now
to
be
stand.
used. Please make sure you take all your personal belongings with you, checking in the seat pockets,
So where are we going to
underneath
park?
the seat, and in the
How
overhead
many
lockers.
jetways are there?
Do
Probably
take
2.
care opening the overhead lockers as items may have moved during flight. Smoking is not permitted.
I don't know if there
until
is
you
one the other
reach the
side of that.
designated smoking
No,
area.
we can do. Yeah, there's a jetway there. What we can do here, just come to stop. We just switch off the our nose lights and our taxi lights. Our turn off lights and our taxi lights. We just come to a. And I do this usually on external view, although you don't have to. Okay. So we can put the parking brake on. Shut down 2, shut down 1. Beacon comes off, telling people that the aircraft is not live.
The boarding requested.
Parking brake, seatbelt signs can come off, and the boarding is requested. So I wonder if we get the jet bridge coming. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. Well, anyway, should do, but I'm not going to worry about it. So that's a much more complicated flight than our standard A2D, but it involves a lot more systems than the Airbus, and I hope you'll find, that it was. I hope you find it useful. One thing I forgot to mention is that the approach mode was activated, and you could see that because the PFD, you could see that it wasn't on the managed speed, that it was expecting us to slow down on the speed tape. So yeah, I should have checked, but I could see it on here. Anyway, that's that. I hope it was useful, and